What is going on, guys, and welcome. In this video we're going to create a transparent navbar that has a menu, and not only does it have a menu, it actually has a submenu. So let's get to work and let's stop wasting time. So how do we create a transparent navbar with multiple drop-down menus? Well, of course, like always, the first thing we would need to do is actually create a HTML basic backbone for that. So what I'm going to do over here, I'm going to again create a div, and it's going to have a class of banner over here like this. And within that banner, we're actually going to place a nav tags over here like this. And within the nav tags, we're obviously going to place a unordered list over here like this. And within unordered list, we're going to create some list items, right? And list items are going to contain a link over here like this. So there we go. Now we have our first list item, and it's going to be home. And next thing what I'm going to do is actually select the line, and I'm going to copy it like, I don't know, like 4 times. And here I'm going to say about, and this is going to be service or services, and this is going to be contact, right? Something like this. Now you can see that I have my first unordered list with few list items. Now what we can do over here is I actually want to create more drop down menus, of course. So I'm just going to take this and I'm going to copy this. So I'm just going to say copy, and over here you can see I have my last list item contact. I obviously can just paste it over here, and here I'm just going to write this is going to be menu, and this is going to be also menu. And this also is going to be menu. Basically all of them are going to be menus. So maybe let's just work with multiple lines at the same time. So it's going to be menu. Here I'm just going to delete this. Now that we have done with that, let's actually create one more sub menu. So we go over here, and maybe let's just call this differently. Let's just call this drop down, and maybe this one too, so we have a little bit more idea. Drop down, and within the drop down we're going to paste some more. So this one I'm going to call sub menu, right? And over here again we're just going to delete a few of them, and I'm going to write sub menu, and over here we're just going to get rid of this stuff. So now we have pretty much created a drop down menus that we're going to have. Now I'm going to do all the styling, and then I'm going to show you how easy it is actually to add one more, because if you remember from example, we actually had, I think somewhere over here was another menu, and we're going to do that. But first I just want to style it and show you how easy it is after that to add sub menus. So let's go ahead and actually create a style tags, because we're not going to be creating external style sheet. We're going to do it within internal style sheet. So here within the style, and let's start styling. Now I'm pretty much always debating, should I do the banner first or should I do the unordered list, because it kind of, if we're first styling over here this unordered list, then maybe it's hard to see what we're doing in the banner, and maybe it's the other way around. So I'm just going to go pretty much down the line and just start with the banner, and then you'll see how everything falls into place. So the first thing that I always want to do is actually create this universal selector, and I just want to say margin 0, and over here I'm also going to say padding 0, right? So I say padding over here, and that also is going to be 0. Now that we're pretty much done with that, over here the next thing what we want is actually start styling the banner, right? So over here we write banner, and again we're just going to write that this is going to have width 100%, and this is going to have a height for 40 pixels, and this is going to have a background image over here. So it's going to be background image, and we're going to say this is going to have URL, and this is, in this case it's going to be coffee over here like this. So now we have a background image, but what we want to do is actually save it and see what happens, right? So if I refresh, you can see that it's the unfortunate thing that it's repeating, right? But we already know how to tackle that, so we're just going to say background repeat, and we're going to say no repeat, and now you can see that we have only one image. And obviously the next thing what we want is background size, and we want to write that the size should be cover over here. So now we're pretty much covering the whole banner that we have. And after that, what we want to do is actually set position relative, because we will be using position absolute for the nav to actually place it within our banner. So I'm going to say position relative over here like this. Now that we're done with the banner, let's actually start styling the nav. So we're just going to create a little bit more space, and I'm going to write nav. And what I would want to do is actually style the nav UL instead of nav. So I'm going to say nav UL. But you know what? Let's, before we start doing it, just want to do something that I would want all my unordered lists to have, is this list style type to be 0. So I'm going to write list style type over here, and I would say none, right? Because I don't want those little circles, right? And this is always something that you want to do. Maybe if you know already some kind of element that's going to be repeating, right, you probably want to style it right away for all of them, because in this case, obviously, you can see that right away I'm selecting just the unordered list that I'm going to be placing here in the middle, right? I'm not selecting all the unordered lists. I'm only selecting the ones that are actually children of the nav, not descendants, but actually children. So over here, what I would want to do is actually say that I would want a height to be 50 pixels. Then I would want a line height to be the same. So I'm going to say 50 pixels over here like this. Then after that, what we're going to do is we're going to say that we would want a margin to the left to be 20 pixels over here like this. So we just moved it a little bit. And after that, we're going to say that this is going to have a position over here, and it's going to be absolute, and it's going to be 10% from the top. Right, so I'm going to say 10% top, something like this. Now it doesn't make any sense right now because we haven't styled the list items, but just bear with me, and in a second we're actually going to do that. So over here, if I would write a nav, and then I would say UL LI, and over here I would say display inline block. So we have display, and we have inline block. So now I can see how my actually nav moved over here. Now I can see the problem because my unordered list is obviously pushing everything up. You see this drop down, right? But we'll fix that once we actually start styling these unordered list itself, right? So don't worry about it. The most important thing you can see over here, these list items, they are the ones that are actually sitting where we want them to sit. So after that, what we would want to do is actually do the width of the list items, and I'm just going to say a width should be something like 150 pixels, right? So maybe that's a little bit too much, like 100 pixels. So let's check it out, what we have on a bigger screen. Is it better? I mean, it's a little bit better. Yeah, 100 pixels is going to be fine. So now we're done with that. Let's actually style all the links in our page, right? I don't want to style them separately. I just want to style them all together. So the way I'm going to write is nav and UL. And over here, I'm just going to say LI and A. Over here like this. And here I'm going to say that I would want them display block. Over here like this. I'm going to be having text align center. And after that, I'm going to say that I don't want the text decoration. So I'm going to say none. Over here like this. And after that, we're going to have a border over here, and it's going to be 2 pixel solid. I don't know, just solid is going to be fine. Let's just keep it solid. And then we're going to create a border radius over here, and we're going to say that that's going to be like 5 pixels, right? So you can see these nice little rounded corners. And then I would want to say a background color to be like dark gray, not dark blue, dark gray over here, gray. So this is going to be our color. And then after that, we would want to have a opacity already right away, so transparency. So I'm just going to say 0.7. And after that, I'm going to say that it would have a color. That's going to be the color of the font. And this is going to be chocolate. And after that, we're going to say a margin to the top. Over here, we're just going to create a little margin. And it's going to be 5 pixels, right? So this is going to be our plan, right? But again, we haven't styled yet these unordered lists. And actually, before we style these unordered lists, what I would want to do is actually set all the nav ul LIs relative, because we're going to be using the position absolute to style the nav uls, right? So over here it's going to be position, and I'm going to say relative. So this is going to be my position relative. And after that, we're going to start actually styling a unordered list. So we would write nav ul. So now I start styling pretty much the second unordered list, and I would say display, and I would want them to be display block. And after that, I would want to say that width should be 100 over here like this. And after that, I'm going to say that it's going to have a position absolute. So I'm going to say position, and over here I'm going to say absolute. So now you can see how they right away moved to the top, right? Because I actually changed the way they're actually displayed. And then I'm going to say top, it's going to be 100% over here like this. And then I'm going to say that the left is going to be 0. And the last one, I would want to have a visibility, and it's going to be hidden. Now, the reason why we set these ones to relative, right? See what happens over here if I do this. So let's say that I would just get rid of this, right? So you see what's happens, right? It's not really understanding where it needs to end, right? It's pretty much using right now all those links as some type of relative. But that's not what we want. We actually want the list item. So therefore we write over here, and now it knows that it needs to stay relative to the list items, all right? Not to the actual. Remember when we set this one to relative, actual banner, that's where it would be staying for. But we want the list items. Therefore we write here relative, and over here is going to be absolute. And here we're just going to write that visibility is going to be hidden for now, because we don't want to. We only want to see that as we're actually hovering. So in order to actually appear that when we're hovering, we're going to say nav ul, and here we're going to say li. This is going to be hover, and as we're hovering, we want a ul over here to be shown. So what we do over here, we write a visibility visible, right? We write visible. So now let's check it out. As I'm hovering, sure enough, you can see that they're showing over here, right? But you can see that I set it only for these list items, right? So therefore, as I'm hovering over this one, it's not showing it. But we'll fix that. Don't worry about it. That's pretty much probably is going to be our next stop, right? So again, what we would need to do is we write nav, then we write ul, then we write ul over here like this. And then again, we say that we would want a position over here, and we would want a absolute. And after that, the difference is going to be here, we're going to say top, we would want 0, and actually left to be 100%. And you'll see in a second why it is like that. So now what we're going to do is actually we're going to say a visibility is going to be hidden over here also. However, again, what we're going to do is we're actually going to set it that as we're hovering over them, the list items, they're going to be actually visible. So over here we write nav ul and ul over here like this, and then we say li, and then we say hover, and then we say as we're hovering over these ones, we would want a ul to be shown, right? So we say visibility visible. Pretty easy. So now let's check it out. Let's just make it, let's save for sure, not that one. Let's save this one, make the screen a little bit bigger, and sure enough, you can see over here, this is my second drop down menu. And again, the difference you see over here we have top 100, left 0, right? Here we had a top 0 because we want actually to be even, and you can see that it's not a little bit even because of the margins. So obviously if we go a little bit, let's say minus 5%, something like this over here, let's try that one out, right? So you can see that it's already moving up, right? So over here, if we would maybe do it more, let's say like 10, let's check it out. What do we have? That should be pretty, yeah, as you see, it's pretty close, right? But the point of that is why it is happening like that is because obviously because of the margins. But you see the idea that over here, how we can create these submenus. Now I didn't add the hover, so probably what I would need to do is actually go over here. You see this nav, the links, but we would want a nav ULLI a, and then a pseudo class of hovering that has we're hovering over. And let's say I'm gonna say that this is gonna be color black. I would want, and I don't know what else. I guess that's gonna be it. So I'm just gonna save this and refresh it, and you can see what happening is that as I'm hovering over them, actually they're turning black, right? Everything, the border and actually the color of the fonts. Now let's check it out how we can do to actually add one more over here, right? This list item. So we go over here, we find where is our actually unordered list. And I don't know, we can maybe just take the whole thing, right? So what we can do is over here, we can just take this and we're just gonna copy this. Let's add it over here, where's the home, right? So we create a little bit more room just so we can actually understand better what we're doing. I'm just gonna paste this. And again, I'm just gonna save this over here just in case, and I'm gonna refresh. You can see that now my home has the same submenu, right? And the menus. So you can see actually how easy it is to do that, right? And how simple it really is. There's a couple of basic things that we need to follow, and we can actually make this in no time.